Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Between Two Brokers. Today, we are here with two of Smith Spencer Real Estate's superstars, Amanda Noble and Lauren Delamater, the Terminator. That's how I tell people how to remember that, because they don't know how to pronounce your name. Do you like that?
Sure.
The Terminator. Wait, if she gets to be the Terminator, I need a nickname.
No, she's like the sweetest person too.
I know,
so
you're probably the Terminator.
I am the Terminator, really.
Yeah.
Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for coming on. So you ladies joined Smith Spencer Real Estate last year. Why don't you give a little bit of a
Year and a half.
Year and a half ago.
Last year was our full first year.
Yeah.
Like we started J1 of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of 2024 was our first year, right?
Yeah, we came September 2023.
That's what I was saying. I was like, I remember you being at our company
the
dinner.
first-
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're right. So it's been about a year and a half.
Yeah.
So why don't you intro, Lauren, let's start with you.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of your background, how you came to Charleston, past work experience, how you got into real estate.
Yeah, I originally am from the Chicago area. Anybody that's from Chicago, I can't say where I'm from because it's not really Chicago, but it's about an hour away. We have been here about 11 years now. My husband and I both always wanted to live by the ocean, so when the opportunity arose, we took it. I had my kids very young, so I have a very interesting work background. I don't have much traditional schooling, but I started my first business at 19.
Which was?
So that was an online eBay selling company. But I've also owned a cafe, a vintage rental furniture company, a wedding planning and design company. And then when I came here, I worked in the wedding world, selling couture wedding gowns on King Street. Wow. But my grandfather was a realtor and grew up going to his office and was always intrigued by it. It was something I always knew I would do. It's just hard to start from zero. And having kids so young, 3 of them, my income was always important. So we just had to get to that place where, we could start at zero and work my way up. But
I didn't know your grandfather was a realtor.
yes, he is.
I learn something new about you every day, like literally every day.
Yeah, I didn't know your job background.
Mm-hmm.
When you say that you wanted to move by the ocean and then the opportunity presented itself, what is that opportunity? Because I hear people say all the time, when the time is right, when the opportunity, like, when is it ever going to be right? What does that look like?
I think, in hindsight, my husband and I talk about this a lot. I had my first child at 19. I met my husband at 20. By the time I was 24, I had 3 kids. So we were both so young, dumb, naive, broke. But looking back, that was a blessing. There was no reason to stay in Illinois. And I don't know if we had been as comfortable as, the way we live today, if we would have moved. So sometimes I think, being in those places of discomfort are a blessing.
So it wasn't like you had established careers and you were like, well,
No.
how am I going to pick up and move this?
No.
You were like, let's just go somewhere and start new. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. I've never been afraid of change. I crave it. I would have a sleeve tattoo and a buzz cut one day and long blonde hair and fake lips the next if I could. I just love change. So my husband, I had to drag through the process. I drag him through a lot every day. He's just more of the steady Eddie, thinks about things.
The yin and the yang.
But yeah, that doesn't, I'd live in London, tomorrow if I could. So that isn't what was hard, but it was just, I think just taking the opportunity. People are just afraid. And you just can't be. Mm-hmm. But it's Charleston. What's the worst that could happen? You move back to Illinois? Okay.
Exactly.
Do you crave change from Charleston, or does the city provide you enough to keep you happy?
I do crave change, just in general. But
what is it missing for you? Like bigger city vibes, bigger city opportunities?
no, I don't think it's anything to do with Charleston. It's just how I'm wired. I do get a little bored easily. But that's why I like real estate. Every day is different. It's so unpredictable. You learn something every day. You meet a new person every day. So it is a good career for my personality.
Okay, here's a suggestion.
Yes.
If you did not wake up at 4 a.m., there would be fewer hours in the day for you to get bored.
This is true. This is a
out
good
there.
piece of advice. I need the hours, though. I need the hours.
I relate to that. I think it's just a personality thing.
Yes.
You know, and if I didn't have this business and my family here and John's family here, like, I dream about it,
Yeah.
but that's it.
You'd be
It's
out of
just-
here.
You
yeah.
always wonder.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
well,
what
it's
could life
just
be like if
fun.
I did this?
Like, I don't
thing?
know, starting over. I don't know.
I think
I do
Lauren
not.
wants to move to Tennessee, like on a farm in Tennessee.
Yes, but then Europe on Thursday.
Right.
So
She's a jet setter.
with my sleeve tattoo.
We can do that in retirement. And of course, knowing all of us, none of us will ever retire.
No.
Okay.
Right when the skin is ripe for tattoos.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, but I didn't want to give anyone a bad visual.
Amanda
Stacy.
Noble, give us your background.
I am from South Carolina. I'm from the upstate of South Carolina, Anderson, a small town. Went to Clemson, graduated Clemson, hightailed it down to Charleston because one of my girlfriends needed a roommate. And I'm like, okay, I'll come down, and then just have never left since I was 22. I've been in real estate for 12 years now, I think. It's literally all I know. Like, I feel like our family, my husband owns a residential remodeling company, and I feel like our whole world is real estate. You know, we eat, breathe, sleep real estate in some sort of form.
And you're kind of a newlywed, right?
2 years next
Yeah.
week.
I was gonna say it's
I
coming
know.
up.
Yeah.
Maybe in 2 weeks. Yeah, newlywed.
And so you guys were you know each other. You came to Smith Spencer together and became friends at a different brokerage. And maybe just talk about the way that your careers have evolved that prompted you to grow out of that.
At the last brokerage, I was there for 10 years on a team with somebody who taught me a lot, to almost everything I know about real estate. So I was there for a very long time, and I learned a lot, mainly in just the sphere of like selling residential real estate. And then, you know, as I got older and wanted to kind of branch out, learning more about, you know, investment opportunities, like holding on to investment properties, you know, buying Airbnbs. My husband and I try to buy one property per year. When I met Robert, I was only solely doing residential real estate selling. And then my husband, Robert, he is a contractor, and it just kind of made sense for our life to pivot. He was working for a national builder at the time, and he's just so good at what he does. It was in 2019. And I was like, you need to be working for yourself. You don't need to be working for anybody else. And this was before we were engaged, married. We were just dating. And I was like, you can do it. And I kind of gave him the push. And he left, and he went out on his own and started Noble Construction. And then, you know, he's the contractor and I'm the real estate agent. It really kind of made sense. So we started flipping property at that point. And so now we do a little bit of everything. I sell residential real estate. You know, we manage these Airbnbs that we have, and we try to flip between 3 and 4 houses a year together.
Deals to be had in
Yeah.
Charleston.
They're there. They're there.
Yeah?
Yeah, they're
Where?
there.
Talk about it. How are you finding them?
I find a lot of our flips I find on MLS, and people think that you can't find a good deal on MLS anymore, and that's just not true. You're lazy. You're not looking. Like, I look at the hot sheet 10 times a day. I know everything that's on the market. There's like our last flip that we did in Sneed Farm. I found that one on MLS. It was sat on MLS for 6 weeks before I bought it. And then we bought it for $700,000, and we ended up selling it 12 weeks later for $1 million. You know, that was on MLS. I mean, it's hard to find deals on MLS, but they're there. And then I also find a lot from other agents. Like, I have a sphere of other agents in Charleston that I've become very close to and I'm connected with, and I throw them deals and they throw me deals, and they know that I'm going to close on it. And so if they, you know, run into a deal where it's like, you know, it's the seller doesn't necessarily want to list on MLS for various reasons, or like they have it and they have it under contract and they want to assign it to somebody that they would rather assign it and they can't, you know, do the flip at the time, they'll call me. And That's how I find a lot of them.
Okay, but let me change the question a little bit. If I call you and I say, I am Stacy and I've never done a flip, but I have some money and I want to do a flip.
Don't do it.
Okay. So that's part of the conversation. So
They have the margin
Yes.
that you don't have, because she's married to Robert,
Well, both sides.
and
Yeah.
you're the realtor. So
We
that
cut
is
out the middleman.
what is difficult about if we were to look on the MLS, we
Yeah.
don't have that extra 25, 30%.
And I don't know how some of the people that are flipping property are doing it, truthfully. Like, I see so many people in
Cutting
Charleston
corners.
flip property. So many people are doing it. And Rob and I look at each other and we're like, how are they making a living? Either they're cutting corners, and like you walk into the property and you can tell that they cut a lot of corners, or they're just not making a lot of money.
B.
And
A and B.
yeah, I think
I
it's
mean,
a
I see it all the
combination of both.
time. Like I've talked to people that have gotten into different parts of real estate, started real estate businesses, not selling, but they said that they were flipping properties, they weren't making any money. I'm like, duh.
Well, that's why I tell people, and like people all the time they're like, flipping property looks like so much fun. Like, can you throw me a deal? Like, I want to get into it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you married to a contractor? And otherwise I wouldn't. It's hard. But it makes sense for us, and we love it.
And Lauren, so we've got Steady Eddie that you're married to, and you're like wanting to do fun things, and I can relate to this relationship. So how'd you talk Josh into buying an Airbnb?
I don't know that I told him.
I was going to say, I think
that's
she
my
bought
mom's
it.
technique.
Yes.
I
Let's
was going to
just
say, I
surprise
think
him.
she bought it, put it under contract, and then told him. Like,
Yes,
I
that
did
is.
this
You're
thing.
you're right.
Yes.
Yes, Amanda knew, which is often the case. Amanda knows before poor Josh. I hope he's not listening. I just know when things are right. I think.
Well, it's your area of expertise.
It's my area of
It's
expertise.
not like a random person who says, I want to buy an Airbnb. We're able to see opportunities.
Yes.
We understand. We have clients who own Airbnbs, all that kind of thing. So
Yes, and my business money is my money. I needed to spend it. We're incentivized as real estate professionals to spend money on real estate. So I just did it.
why Edisto?
I love Edisto. I had visited Amanda's property a few times. It's also a lot more affordable than Charleston. I'm a big Edisto fan. If someone does have some money that they want to spend, I steer them away. If they say they want to do a flip or something, I usually just tell them to buy a condo on Edisto for $300,000. You can get very close to breaking even your first year, and get into real estate that way, the buy and hold here versus, I think people, to Amanda's point, they think they're going to flip a house and make $200,000. That's just not the case. I think you're lucky sometimes to make $20,000. It's not livable money. It's not life-changing money. So yeah, I love Edisto. I just think it's a quaint, quiet.
I love Edisto. It is my
We're
favorite place
Edisto
on earth.
fans.
What do people do there other than go to
Nothing.
the beach?
Nothing.
It's just quiet. And
It's
you
just very
sit.
quiet.
Cute little bars. There's cute little coffee shops, bike ride, run. I mean, my boys fish when we go down, golf.
Yeah, there's a golf course. You go to the beach. Most places don't have Wi-Fi. You just totally just disconnect.
It's a
from
disconnect,
Charleston.
checkout.
I
from
mean,
your everyday
I
life.
I feel like I wear the same shorts and t-shirt like 4 days in a row. I don't wash my hair. I don't wear makeup. You walk around in flip-flops. Nobody cares. There's a bunch of dive bars.
And
you
there's
know.
enough demand to keep your Airbnbs
Yeah.
making
Yes,
money.
They're booked. And like the winter break, they book, kind of sporadically. But starting from March through August, booked.
Yeah, pretty
Like
solid.
right now, both of mine are booked through the summer.
And is Edisto limiting STRs right now?
Not
No,
right now.
and that's the other big thing.
And
I mean,
that's
where
why
else
I
can you
push.
go?
Yeah.
You might as well buy something now and be grandfathered in, because it probably will come eventually. I think that's still a few years away for them, but
And that's another thing, brings up a couple of different points is, what the expectations are when people are buying investment property, like the cash flow. It's the number one thing that I hear people say, because everybody read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's great. Okay. I know it. And there was a time and an opportunity for that, and it no longer exists here
When it
in
was
Charleston.
written.
Yes.
20 years
What's
ago
the
now.
what's the Cliff's Notes? I've not read it.
Well, you just buy property and hold them and flip them and buy buildings and all,
Well,
and
and
it's
back when interest rates were like 3%, 4%, like you could get a rental and then you could be bringing in
yes.
cash flow per month to help you pay your bills, right? Like you could be bringing in, like say you own 10 properties and then each is bringing in $1,000 a month in extra cash flow. Well, then you're bringing in $100,000 and that's your salary and you can retire. You just can't do that right now because interest rates are so high.
And prices too.
And
I was going to
prices
say,
are
I'd
high.
argue that model, I think, is dead now.
Well,
I
that's
don't
what
think
I'm
it'll
saying.
ever come back. 'cause
You can't
that's
do
when
that
prices-
anymore.
yeah.
Now, like buying, like we still try to buy one property per year and hold, and we rent them out, and we're not making that. We're not making $1,000 a month on them. They pay for themselves. It's all about the appreciation right now. It's a place to put your money. It's better than the bank. You're getting a better return. You have a place to use whenever you want to. And these properties are appreciating every year, like 5, 6, 7, 8% per year. That's a better return on your money than you get in a bank. It's the long game now. It's not the short game.
Totally. And that's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, if you want cash flow, you should buy in a different market and but you won't get the appreciation. And also, why do you need the cash flow? I mean, you're getting taxed on it.
I think they just read a book or listen
Yes.
to a podcast that tells them that they
Yes.
think that's what they should expect.
And so if you buy a $500,000 property here in Charleston and you're getting, around 5% appreciation per year over the long term, that's not a bad return if it's just paying for itself. And then over time, because with your Airbnbs, you get repeat clients that come back every single year, and then it grows and it snowballs and that kind of thing. So, right? So it's like time in the market for Airbnbs. Like your first year is your roughest year.
My first year was a great year.
I was going to say ours too. We broke.
Well,
we
what
broke
year
even
did you
our
buy?
First year.
We bought a house down in Edisto, I want to say in 2020.
Okay, that's why you had
Maybe.
COVID. Sorry, I'm just saying.
And then our condo we bought in 2022, maybe 2023. I don't know. I don't remember the exact.
2022 or 2023. But yeah, that was when I bought mine too, and I was very prepared to lose a lot of money.
Did you guys have to do renovations to the properties before you got them ready?
Yeah.
You did not. You did.
I
Okay,
did.
and you had Robert. Did you? I know both of you are into style and design, but did you do anything special to give them personality?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So our house,
And she lit up.
our house, we had to do some renovations. Like we had to gut the master bathroom. It was pretty gross. We did like a full paint job and new floors, but that was it. And then we furnished it. And I didn't do anything crazy there, but our little condo, we didn't have to do any renovations there. We painted it and then we refurnished it, but it sits right on the golf course in Edisto. It sits on the 18th hole. You walk out the back door, you're literally on the fairway. So we named the condo the 19th hole. And then I did everything kind of like a golf theme in the condo. So like kind of like green accent couch like for the masters, and then I had like some prints made with golf, little like the caddies wear with your name on the back, and we put Noble, and I like printed those out, and then old black and white photos of like legendary golfers and put them all around the condo. I don't know, I just thought that was cool. And Lynn, I think when people see that, they like that and they want to click on that on Airbnb more than some of the stuff
It makes
that's
it
just
stand
like
out.
the 1980s furnishings. And then also, like the biggest thing I think that sets us apart is Lauren and I both had professional pictures taken of our Airbnb and put them on, Airbnb and VRBO. And I would say 90% of the people
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
It's so stupid.
They are marketing their house and they take the pictures themselves on their cell phone. And it's ridiculous.
And they have the 1980s decor. Like ours are both very cute, you know, and well decorated.
And so I feel like ours, I charge a little bit more than most people do, but mine stays booked, I think, because they see the professional photos and it's cute and it's clean and they book it.
Let me tell you what, if I see a nasty ass couch in an Airbnb photo, I don't care where
You're
the
out.
location
Yes.
is, no, I'm done. I'm not sitting on your nasty
Agreed.
couch. Get a new couch.
Agreed.
I listened to a podcast yesterday with a woman who had flipped houses, had Airbnbs. She did them all around military bases, which was kind of interesting, around Fort Bragg and stuff. She wound up starting, she sold everything off and started a design firm specific for this. So they do designs for flips and Airbnbs. And it's just kind of like, listening to her talk about everything, it's all the things that you're saying. Like, she knows the business, she knows what to look for, she knows what to create that's going to be eye-catching. It's standing out. What are some like cost-saving ways that you can make a place have a look that makes it stand out? But I just thought it was really interesting because their services are at a discount to what, like, if you were going to hire an amazing, and she said, look, an amazing interior designer is worth every penny, but that's not what an Airbnb or a house flipper needs. And we have all these packages, and we know everything, and we know the demographic for the person that's going to be renting this or buying this, and they just only work in certain markets.
Interesting.
It is interesting. And another thing that she said, which I think is interesting, is because the woman who's interviewing her is a real estate agent. And she said, well, how come you never got your real estate license, and how come you don't do your own deals? And she said, I know what I'm great at. And
stay in your lane.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can't go into a market and know what my real estate agent knows and where are the areas of opportunity and all. It's not worth it. And they're going to bring me to the deal and pay for themselves. And I'm not going to get distracted trying to study that market and whatever. Just focus on one thing, having a focus. I think that's really interesting.
Well, it's very difficult too to be a valuable asset to your clients if you don't do it full time. I'm always kind of intrigued by these people that, you know, I'm an interior designer. I also sell real estate, and I also, I don't know.
Intrigued is
like,
being kind.
Yeah.
Bake cookies.
I'm irked.
You know,
I don't like it.
It just doesn't make sense, because that's a part of, I think, why people, you know, have a bad view of realtors sometimes, or real estate agents. Sometimes it's, you know, that's their experience, is maybe somebody who dabbles but doesn't, you know, do it full time. I don't know how you could possibly know what the market's really doing and find these off-market deals and truly be an asset to somebody. So I commend her, whoever she is, for staying in her lane.
Let's talk about that for a second, because there's a lot of news in the air about the real estate industry and how we're all crooks and everything. And I want to start by saying that the problem with the real estate industry is that there's a low barrier to entry. So it takes you a couple weeks to get your real estate license. Anybody can get their real estate license, and then they call themselves a real estate agent. And
they are one.
Yeah, and they are one. Right. And they don't know anything.
School and licensing is also not very expensive.
No. That's
And
a good point too, yeah.
Most people get into the business because they are one of two things. They're either lazy and they want to do something and have a job, or they want to make a lot of money, okay? And these two types of people that get their real estate license cause problems for the top 5-10% of us that take this extremely seriously and give our clients the level of care that everybody should. So, you know, we have a hard time describing our value and all of the things that we do for clients and all of the ways that we guide them and tell them this is a good idea, this is a bad idea, this is what we need to do. So do you guys know the Realtors Hate Me on Instagram? The handle
I do
Realtors
now.
Okay.
I looked it up yesterday,
Oh,
actually.
you were talking about that yesterday, but I did not look it up. No.
Okay, and you saw it?
What is it about?
So this guy went on and said that he was selling his home in Colorado, and he interviewed several agents who failed to
Justify the commission.
justify the commission. And so he decided to list it for sale by owner. And he just went on there and talked about how the real estate industry was broken and everything like that.
Well, it's hard to justify commission. Like, it's hard to put into words everything that we do.
Yeah.
There's such a grand scope. I mean, I could sit here and talk for 3 hours about why I deserve that commission. It's really hard to articulate.
And each scenario is so
It's
different.
And you don't know what you're
different.
signing up
Client
for.
You can't
needs
possibly
something different.
imagine all the
Yeah.
scenarios.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know what you're signing up for. So then he proceeded to go on and talk about how realtors had blacklisted him. Some agents said, are you paying me? And of course we have to do that, because if he's not paying them, then their client, client has to pay the buyer's agent. So that's a conversation they need to have separately. You know, there are some things that he definitely didn't understand. A lot of realtors were supporting him, saying, you know, this is actually a pretty good idea. I mean, I think we all believe that everybody should do what they think is best. You know, and if somebody thinks that they have a house that they can sell on their own and do a better job than a real estate agent, then that's fine. You know, our experience with for sale by owners, well, I mean, tell me, like, what do you think when you see a limited service listing or a for sale by owner?
Immediately, I roll.
Yes.
I roll.
It's just,
Okay.
you know, it's going to be a difficult transaction. I mean, I have one going on right now, and I'm doing
You
so
do
much
both
more
sides.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
because-
have to do the seller
Yes.
side and the buyer side.
Yeah, you're
You
doing
have
the
to
which
work
is
do both
both
fine
ways.
with, you know, I
Yeah.
want my buyer client to get this house, and I mean, that's a part of, you know, what we sign up for too. It isn't going to be easy every time, and that I think is where we also get a bad reputation sometimes, because a lot of realtors are lazy and they just expect it to fall into their lap and be easy. But yeah, it has been, you know, you're just doing more work. So far so good, knock on wood, but it's just a lot more work. I mean, the things that we save people from, I think that's hard. What's hard about our job too is, you know, after closing, you're not going to tell your client, you had no idea about this, and this,
Right,
yeah.
but I was doing that. You know, I was
Right.
on the phone with the other agent at 11 p.m. trying to
Save the deal.
save the deal
Keep
or
the deal together.
you know,
Yeah.
all that stuff. But you made a good point yesterday, Stacy, when you said, you know, the clients that value you the most also work in industries where they are protecting people. And that's interesting, because I was thinking then about my clients that do or have respected me the most, and they work in a similar capacity where, you know, you almost can't articulate what their job is, but you know that they're worth it.
Or they're
I thought that
highly
was interesting.
successful people that know that they know that they're the experts at what they do, and they can't possibly know.
Be an expert in this as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they have complete trust. And like service after the sale. I mean, my best clients I talk to all the time, and I
Yeah.
deal with their questions all the time, years after they've bought
Yeah.
something. And so, I mean,
And so naturally, when they're ready to do their next transaction, you're the one that they reach out to
yes.
because you talk to them all the time.
Yes, but it goes back to commission. It's like, I'm not just getting paid for, you know, the time
Unlocking
that
a
I
door
spent.
or
Yeah,
whatever
I mean,
people think.
or I've been talking on the phone with them for hours for years, and spending, you know, 4 weekends with them for years before they buy. I mean, there's all that time, and then there's the transaction time, and then there's the time after.
And this guy on Instagram did say, no one justified their expensive 2.5% commission for marketing a property and opening the door. That reputation, that is what our workload is, drives me fucking
know.
crazy.
And I think what we want to do as a brokerage at Smith Spencer, what you hit on yesterday, is kind of show people more behind the scenes, like more behind the scenes deals, like what we're doing every day. We just need to start showing more of that to people and let them know, like, the white glove service that we're offering, the late night phone calls that we're doing. What are we negotiating in a contract right now that's, you know, is so wild and crazy, and our clients would never in a million years think about
The
that.
inspection
but we are doing
reports,
that.
the repair
inspection
addendums,
reports.
the appraisal issues.
I'm sorry, do you know how to read a repair addendum?
Yeah.
No, you don't. These are things that like I can read that in my sleep backwards. It's like I've been doing this for so long, and the people that are selling their house as a FSBO, like when I approach them with the inspection report and a full page with 20 items on a repair addendum, they're going to freak out. And there's nothing to freak out about. If I gave that to you, like, okay, let's get through this.
Let's work through this. Yeah.
But
Whereas
they're
I have so many sellers that's like, oh, tell them to go fuck themselves. I'm
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, we'll do.
Okay.
Will do.
Yeah.
Nobody's getting paid that way.
If buyer and seller were dealing directly with one another, like, come on, deals would
It wouldn't
hardly
work.
ever happen.
And
right?
that is what
'Cause
I
there's
think
so
is
much ego
interesting.
wrapped up.
What do people want? I don't disagree. I think there are things about our industry that could be made better. I really
Yes,
do.
absolutely.
But what do people picture is that they are doing that together. They are they buyer are working with person seller without any,
And it's gonna be all laughs
gonna
and
be great.
handshakes and pats on the back.
So that
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, I believe that everybody needs an agent when emotion is involved. And that's the biggest thing with real estate is emotion. I mean, I tried to sell my house a couple years ago. You guys were not by my side for that, but Erin was.
No, but I remember seeing it listed.
And it was a complete disaster. I got like 3 contracts. I was like fuming and emotional, and I behaved with the other agents, but at the end of it, I just told Erin, like, I will pay you to sell my next house because you're going to save me from myself. I was so emotional. And even like we're doing work on our house and had to hire a contractor who got fired this morning. And, I just got so hot and I was dealing with a guy that I had to tap John in and say, okay, you have to take over. I am too emotional about this. I cannot negotiate. I can't talk to this person, and like, just save me from this. Like, and then even this morning when I was talking about having the breakup conversation with my new contractor, Robert Noble, I said, all right, this is what I'm going to say to the guy. I'm going to have my attorneys and my team review. And he was like, okay, Stacy. This is what I recommend, if you don't mind. How about you just say, I'm no longer comfortable. I'm not going to say anything bad about you. I would like an invoice for services rendered. I would like the rest to be reimbursed to me, and I would like to amicably part ways. I said those exact things and ran out the door, and I said, Robert, he said, fine.
Yeah.
You just, because you're emotional about your stuff. You're like, these people are coming for me, and you feel threatened, and you feel like your back is against the wall. And it's so funny to me watching my own behavior in emotional situations. And then I see Robert, and I'm like, Robert is exactly how I am as a real estate agent with my client.
Yeah.
Right.
Calm, stoic,
Right.
respectful.
And that's what real estate agents do, is they hear you with frustration, and they translate that in a way that can be received by the other side, so that you can make a deal happen.
And here's the other thing, because sometimes we do have deals where repairs are not a wrestling match, and maybe there is not an appraisal issue, and the negotiations go okay, and it seems like, hey, that was an easy deal. Well, it's most likely because there are 2 experienced agents on both sides. If you were going to hire a lawyer, the one right out of law school is not going to get the job done quicker than someone who's been in the business for 20 years, because the one who's been in the business for 20 years is preventing problems.
They know how it's going to play out.
Exactly. You can spend maybe less money with the new one, but it's going to cost you money, or time or whatever. I've told this story on the podcast before, and I think Lindsay told me that it was actually a Picasso thing, but there is, I don't know if it's true or not, but there's a man sitting in a pub, like making a sketch of a woman sitting across the table whatever, right? And somebody comes up and they're like, hey, can you do this for me, whatever? And he does it, and it takes like 10 minutes. Slides it across the table, and he's like, that'll be $10,000. And the guy's like, that took you 10 minutes. He goes, no, that took me 40 years. To learn a craft and then be good at it, just because you do it quickly or you prevent problems doesn't mean you should earn less.
We talk about that all the time as realtors, but also as my husband, a contractor. Like, people have this perception that contractors are blue collar and they should not make good money, or the things that they do should be cheap, or, you know, they are the first ones to always, like, when they send out an invoice, people immediately want to argue with it and scoff and get other quotes. And he's like, okay, you know, I've been doing this for 25 years. Like, I know how much it costs. I know that what I'm worth. I know it's good. Go find somebody else that you think can do it for cheaper.
Yeah.
You get what you pay for.
And you're going to have to
people.
Band-Aid it in 2 years.
Well, at the end of the day, no client that immediately goes into it thinking you're not worth it, or what's another trigger I hate? Oh, this is easy money. Whenever I hear that, I'm like, I don't want to work with you. I know it's not going to play out well, because immediately I can tell you don't respect what I do. There's so much business for contractors or us in Charleston. We don't need those people.
Yeah, I had a friend visiting, and we were walking my neighborhood, and I took her by Goblet, this house that I designed, helped with the floor. I mean, from architectural plans. First of all, sold the vacant land to my clients, off market. It was a deal that Stacy and I had. You know, was involved in this process the whole time. I mean, it's probably 3 years total. And so we're walking back home, and she was like, how much money will you make off that deal when it sells? And I told her, and she was like, wow. And I go, I've been working on this for 3 years.
Not to mention, you haven't taken your taxes out of that fee, your marketing.
Exactly.
I mean, people look at that amount on the closing statement and just, you know.
But that's why people get into real estate.
I also spent $26,000 on staging before the house ever sold.
Right.
There was no guarantee I was going to get that money back.
Right.
You know, I did all the design work.
That's another thing. When you list a property and then they change their minds, they take it off the market, you've spent thousands of dollars on.
It makes me sick to think about.
Yeah.
I mean,
or the buyers that you take around for years that never buy.
Yep.
You know, and so, I mean, there's just a lot of what we do, and the way that we get paid is through closing deals and commissions, but that's not always a guarantee.
Yeah. I think about the deal that I just had downtown, which I talked about recently too. It's like somebody sent me an offer with a VA loan on a house built in 1872. You know, had I been fresh out of real estate school, I'd been like, wow, this is a great offer. It's full price, you know, whatever. And 2 weeks later, shit would have hit the fan so bad. You know, it's just like, I prevented that from happening.
If you had a bad experience with a real estate agent, it's because you didn't have a good one, and that's it.
Right.
You know?
Right. And I learned something, I'm sure you would say the same, every single transaction. There's some little nuance that's different. So again, like, if you're only selling 3 houses a year, you can't possibly know enough to be an asset to somebody else.
No, but you're confident enough to problem solve. And the asset of having an experienced real estate agent is we know how things generally play out. We know how to make the game smoother and more palatable. Like Cynthia always says that I'm psychic, and I'm like, I'm not.
Well,
I've just seen this happen over and over again. I know how it goes.
Like in the past few years that I've really started paying attention to is this: my gut instinct about a deal is always right. If I have even a little twinge that I'm like, this is going to go sideways,
it does.
It will go sideways.
Yeah.
It is like, it's a gut feeling. I don't know if it's a combination of, you know, the agent and how I feel about working with that agent and our phone calls and interactions together, or the house, or a certain scenario that's happened in the past. I know when something is going to go wrong.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, that comes with experience. I've been doing it for 12 years. I sell 40 houses a year. I know.
And negotiations too, and the relationships with other agents. Like when you have a client that wants to make an offer on something, having that initial phone call with the agent, you know, what are they looking for? What, you know, so that you are several steps ahead of the game when you put your initial offer on the table. I don't understand anybody that doesn't do that, because
receiving an offer without a phone call.
Yes.
Yeah. I know. I'm always blown away.
It's
it's
one-sided. You know, you have a timeline. You know, of course, what are they looking for in terms of timeline? Are they willing to part with this, that, and the other? You know, what's their situation? All of these
Do you
things.
have any other offers?
Exactly. All things you need to know before you, and then how long do you need to respond respectfully? You giving me 2 hours to respond? Well, I'm not going to be able to, that's unrealistic. Or I just wrote an offer and the client lives in California, and the girl texted me after we hung up and she was like, just, can you give us enough time? I said, absolutely, already factored that in, of course. I mean, be respectful. And so like all of that makes our deals, our offers more palatable to the seller and their agent, because we've already kind of talked through some things. There's mutual respect, and they just go smoother.
100%. When I am working with another agent, I want that agent to be my best friend. I am not trying to fight that agent. I am not trying to win anything. And I think a lot of agents do that. They have to win. They have to have the upper hand. They have
It's me versus you.
Yes. It was like, if I'm going to call you, Erin, I'm be like, hi, bestie.
Yeah.
What are you doing today? I've got great news. I'm going to make an offer on your house. Like, tell me all the things. Tell me what your client wants. And I'm going to be her best friend, because that way, like, I'm going to pester the shit out of her until I get a ratified contract. And that way, when I am pestering the shit out of her, she's not annoyed. You know, she's like, oh, it's Amanda. You know, I like her.
She's doing her job.
She's doing her job.
Right.
She's good. You know, stuff like that. So I never understood these agents who are very like brash with me, or don't pick up their telephone, or, you know, feel like they're bad. We're not in a battle. We're working towards the same goal. Like, we are both get paid on the same day. What, you know?
When we were selling our Airbnb in Park Circle during COVID, I was in multiple offers, but one of the offers that I got was from an agent that did not even show the property. Okay, the buyers hadn't seen it. Okay, the agent didn't even go see it, and then she was shocked that she didn't get it. She didn't call me, nothing, no text. I just got an offer in my email, and I was like, "Did you even show this?" No, she didn't. And then she was like, I
hate
what was the winning offer? And I'm
offers.
like, well, had you had a conversation with me, you would have known what was important to us.
Yeah.
I also, when I'm talking to my client, talk about the agent on the other side. I have had a situation recently where I had an offer presented to me, and I had to tell my sellers, I do not trust this person
She crazy.
or anything that she says. I have to tell you that, and I have reasons for that, and you can do whatever you want. Or I will say, this is an agent that I've worked with. Her clients respect her and listen to her, and I feel certain that she's going to do everything if she can to make the deal happen. It's not a guarantee, but I have somebody that I respect on the other side, and that's a really good thing. You know, so that's another part of it. So I don't understand why real estate agent, I mean, it's just simple negotiation. Okay. Because to get a deal in a negotiation, you have to make compromises, and you really are, you're all working towards the same goal, which means you're all on the same team. And I just think that a lot of time, you know, again, going back to successful people, they understand that because they've done deals their whole life. And that's why they respect you, because they know that they're not going to get anything out of you telling you what to do, or, you know, micromanaging you and stuff. And I also think all of us have gotten to the point in our careers where, you know, if a client calls us and talks to us, I used to get taken advantage of all the time when I didn't know anything, and I couldn't pick up on red flags when I was 25 years old. But now, like, if somebody calls me and just has an initial conversation with me and I ask them questions and they get defensive, like, if you can't tell me what your budget is, like, right away, I mean, I need to know that right away, you know? And I mean, that's not a unusual question. How else do I start? And so if they're put off by that, then, you know, good luck with your amateur.
You just saved yourself a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah. So Lauren, do you have any kind of like specialty in your real estate business or focus, or do you just?
I mean, I would say, you know, if I looked at the transactions that I've had, a lot of them are with families. You know, that's who
You have
I
kids.
am. I have kids. selling a lot in my sphere. I also have a lot of families that are relocating from other states.
Okay, so if anyone listening was going to invest in Charleston for an Airbnb and now they're like, let me look at Edisto. How long of a drive is that from here?
From
Hour 10.
Mount Pleasant, it's an hour and 20 minutes.
Okay, so nothing.
Nothing.
And you guys would be happy to represent them. It's in the state of South
100%,
Carolina.
yes.
Okay, give your Instagram handles or your phone numbers or your emails or whatever you want to share.
Amanda Noble Realtor on Instagram. And then all my Airbnbs are there, little square circle. You can click it and look at them.
Her highlights.
And my highlights.
And I'm Lauren E. Delamater on Instagram. That's mainly where I am. And I have a little link that has all my websites, all my guides that you can download, all linked in one spot in my bio.
Okay, and we're going to keep y'all around for a part 2 because we have some other stuff to talk about. So
We'd love it.
Stay tuned.
We'll be
Thank
back.
you so much for
Thank you.
listening.
Thank you for having us.
Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Tell all your friends, and we will see you next time.